This is the Checkpoint app, which is used during the bike ride at checkpoints to check in the bicyclists. Okay, we're going to start up the app. Note the attractive icon, which combines the graphic elements of check and point. The first time you start up the app, it makes you select a checkpoint that you'll be working at. There are a total of 7 checkpoints. There are the 5 numbered checkpoints, plus the start and the finish are considered checkpoints for the app. So we're going to start at the start. And it keeps that information that you're working at this particular checkpoint, even if you were to leave the application and come back. It's not common, but you can exit from the application. And start it up again. And we're back, and we're still at the start. Okay, there are 3 ways that you can enter the riders when they check in. You can do it by the rider's name or by their number, which you can enter on a keypad or use speech recognition. For the speech recognition, you click on the green microphone icon, and now it's listening to what I'm saying. It's actually recognizing every word that I'm saying, but it's ignoring everything that I say that's not a number. So once I say a number, it will attempt to check in the rider with that number. Okay, 2200.
Joseph Desmond.
And it confirms that it recognized it by displaying the number and the name on the screen, and also, as you heard, it says the name. You can turn that part off if you want. And they say that you shouldn't leave speech recognition on all the time. So it times out if I were to stop talking for, I think it's 20 seconds. Well, I'm just going to turn it off here. And you can see that it was turned off by the fact that the screen turned red again. And you can hear that distinctive sound there to remind you that the speech recognition isn't on. And I'll go back into speech recognition. Point out that there's a number of different ways that it can recognize numbers. For example, 2500.
Ted Parker.
Or okay, there it thought I said 4, and what that's showing is that if it picks up something that's not the number of a recognized registered rider, it considers that an error. It still displays it there in red, and it gives you an error noise. I can also say 2501.
William Lugo.
Or 2502. And then again, notice that it misrecognized what I said there. The reason it stores this here, this is a good example of this, is that you can see what it thought you said, and that reminds you that you should try again. So I'll try again with 2502.
Sylvia Vasquez Lavado.
And if I say the same person in a different way, for example, going back to Ted Parker, 2500.
Dupe.
It says dupe because it recognizes that it already has that person. I'll try another example. I'm going to turn off the speech recognition because I don't want it to hear what I'm about to say. But I'm going to try to say 1160 and see if it can get that as both 11 and 60. It's hard to do that. I have to really do a big pause, otherwise it will do it correctly. Here we go. 1160.
John Hannigan.
Okay. And in this case, it recognized part of what I was saying as a person other than who I meant to say. So I'm going to first turn off the speech recognition. And I want to get rid of 11 because I meant to do 1160. So I can do that by selecting the rider. And there's a little menu which you probably can't see, and there's something on here for delete check-in. And I confirm that, and he's gone. Now you can also clean up the dupes and the non-riders, but you don't have to unless you're obsessive compulsive, because they appear here in the check-in register just so that you can see your mistakes, but they're not really accounted for as checked in. Okay, going on to the numeric keypad. This is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to enter a number here. I'm going to do a 23 and press enter.
Lou Lasher.
And there I am. And there's also an alphabetic keyboard, and I don't know if you can see it, it's actually not QWERTY, it's just the alphabet in order, and you just enter the first couple of letters of the person's last name. Like I'm going to do Steve McQuillan. You start by pressing M, and you can see there's all the riders whose last names start with M are here. So I could just scroll and select it, or I can continue spelling out his last name. And you probably can't see this either, but most of the alphabet is grayed out because there's no riders whose last name starts with MB or MX or MZ, but there is an MC. So, and then I can even type the Q and select him.
72.
Now, when you use the alphabetic keyboard, it confirms it by saying the number. That's probably not necessary, and so that's also something that you can turn that off. Okay, once you've checked in a few people, and believe it or not, even with all these errors here, we have checked in a number of people. We can see who's here up at the top after it says the name of the checkpoint. There's two categories. There's missing riders and arrived riders. So first let's see who's arrived. And we have 6 people who are checked in, and then we select missing. Everybody else is missing, including number 11 John Hannigan, because that was an error. So we corrected that. Now, at any time, you can also get information about a person by selecting them. I guess I'll go to myself in the arrived list here, and the menu pops up, and I'm going to select the first thing is rider information, and you probably can't see this at all, but it has. It says Lou Lasher, Cambridge, Massachusetts, t-shirt size, my cell phone number, if any, and emergency contact. I think Steve McQuillan doesn't have a cell phone, and so there it says no cell phone. Now you can also see this information sorted either by the name or by the rider. Here it's by rider number. You can sort by last name, and since this is the list of arrived riders, you can sort it by the time, either who got here first or who got here last, in reverse chronological order. For the missing rider list, it doesn't have a time, so you can only sort by the name or by the rider number. The missing list is really only useful if you know about what I'm going to call the DNFs, or the DNSs and the DNFs. For those of you who've done volunteer work at other races, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's the did not start and did not finish, of which the much more common case is the did not start. It's not unusual for us to do registration at the start of the race and find that there's a good 20 or so riders who didn't show up. And obviously you don't want to wait around for them at the later checkpoints. And so here at the this is the list of missing riders. There's a button up in the near the top right labeled DNS, and that's to establish the did not start list for the benefit really of later checkpoints. And so you don't press this until you're finished registering people at the start. And this is at the point where you've decided, okay, these people are never going to show up. So you press DNS, and there's a confirmation thing, and you say okay. And so everybody who is missing has been marked as DNS. And you'll notice that the background color has changed to a gray. This will be useful if you're at a later checkpoint, because you can see who you're really waiting for and who was just on the list but who's never going to show up. Okay, so now let's move on to checkpoint 1. There's a menu here where you can select checkpoint, just as we did when we first started up the app. You can move to a later checkpoint. This isn't something that you would normally do. Normally you only work at one checkpoint. However, it's, I guess, possible that you could use the same device at the start and also at checkpoint 4, or you could use a device Halifax, checkpoint 1, and that closes pretty early. You might be able to get the same device to Provincetown in time for that to open up. But for here, it's just for the sake of demoing it. Okay, now we're at checkpoint 1. If I look at the arrived list, it says no riders have arrived, and the missing list is everybody at this point. But there were only 6 people who really showed up at the start. So they're the ones we care about, and then everybody else is just there for our information. And if you sort it, I guess here it's by number. If you sort by name, it sorts both lists independently. So the list of the DNSs is sorted by last name, and the list of people who you're genuinely concerned about is also sorted by last name. Okay, so now the riders are starting to arrive in Halifax, and we'll check them in. We'll just use the numeric keypad here. Okay, there's Joe, and there's Steve from Cleveland. You may have noticed that it's not saying the people's names anymore when I enter their numbers. During the break, some of you may have noticed a discontinuity in the video. I had to recharge the camera batteries again. So while I was waiting for that, I turned off the option. That's in the menu here. There's a settings page where I turned off the feature to say the people's names. Okay, so got 2 people. Let's do that 2500 guy also. So at this point, we can see that we go to the arrival screen, and we see there's 3 people who have arrived, And of the people who are missing, there are 3 people who actually started who we're still waiting for, and the rest of the people were the DNSs, did not starts. So let's say that someone were to ask you whether someone has shown up yet. You could just look in both places, and at this point, with only 6 people actually riding, that would be plausible, but ordinarily you wouldn't want to have to scroll through both the arrived and the missing lists to answer that question. So there's also a search feature. You can see up in the top bar there towards the right, there's the standard search icon, and then you just enter the person's name or number. So I guess by number, I'll put in my number, and it shows everything that the app knows about me. It has my contact information, and it shows that I started at a given time, but that's all it has. It doesn't doesn't have any further information about me. Whereas if I were to look up Steve, it shows, well, he has no cell phone, but he has emergency contact, and it shows 2 listings there. It shows when he was checked in at the start and when he was checked in at Halifax. Now, the other thing we can do here is to record a DNF. DNF, as you recall, is did not finish. So it doesn't happen a lot, but let's say we're looking at the list of missing riders, and somebody reports that Lou Lasher has not been able to make it to checkpoint 1, and he's decided to drop out of the ride. So we can indicate that by selecting the rider here until the menu comes up, and the third thing on the menu is withdraw rider. I use the word withdraw rather than DNF because not all the volunteers would know the expression DNF. And it confirms, are you sure you want to mark the rider as withdrawing from the ride, did not finish. And now you can see that I've been moved to another section here. There's the white background at the top is the people we're waiting for. The yellow section is for the DNFs, and then under that is the grayed out section for the did not starts. Another use for this feature would be if we're running the app only at 1 or 2 checkpoints, which is what I'm proposing for this year, and we don't actually have the DNS information from the start, then just as a workaround, people can manually enter people as not on the ride using the DNF feature. I mean, we'd be using that for DNSs, but it doesn't matter so long as you know who you need to wait for and who you do not need to wait for. In general, the app can be used standalone at only 1 checkpoint, or it can be used at several checkpoints. Ideally, it would be used at all 7 checkpoints. The more data you have, the more useful it is. But even if you're only using the app at 1 checkpoint, I think the biggest benefit would be if you're using it at the finish. So I'm going to select the checkpoint for the finish here, and here it's showing the missing riders, which of the I guess there were 6 people who started, and one of them, Lou Lasher, dropped out, and there's still 5 that we're waiting for. But if you you check in riders, in addition to showing the person's name, number, and their time, it also shows you their t-shirt size automatically, which is handy because the person at the finish can then just go and get the appropriate t-shirt. And I'll put in a couple more people here. And the other thing that you can do is publish the results of the ride in finish order. So you do that here on the menu by selecting Publish Results. And what that does is it writes out a text file that can be imported into a spreadsheet. And I happen to have a very slow spreadsheet application here. This is the Android version of OpenOffice that is now starting up, and the Checkpoint app automatically invoked the spreadsheet app, and it's asking me how to import the data. You know, it's funny, it's comma separated values. That's what everybody uses, and you have to check the box there for comma. That should be the default. And it comes up in the spreadsheet, and then you can export it from the spreadsheet to a PDF file. Okay, that's done. And okay, I have to press export a second time here. Okay, and that's created the PDF file, which I could just go to another app here where it has, this is just a File Explorer app, and the PDF file is there. And you probably can't read any of this, but it just has the people listed in the order of finish, and it's got their name and where they're from and whatnot. And that's it. Hope you've enjoyed sitting through this video of the Checkpoint app.